Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just feel free to go over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Michael Osso on the line, and he's president and CEO over at Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And just to let you know that this particular interview is part of our Milk and Global Conference coverage series, where we bring you the best participants and attendees of the Milk and Global Conference in Beverly Hills, California. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's such a pleasure to be on. I appreciate you having me.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. I definitely want to get into the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and IBD and you know, build some awareness around this topic. I have some things to say about that and some stories to share. But first, I want to talk about the conference a little bit. I understand this was your first time as a conference goer. Like tell us about your experience.
It was actually. Thank you for asking. I have heard about the conference many times from many people over many years and never had an opportunity to attend until this past May. And it was incredible. It was all the things that everyone had told me that it was. You know, there's a healthcare track, which is, you know, a logical way for me to spend my time at a conference like this. And I certainly attended lots of healthcare sessions, and that was wonderful and informative and educational. But it also gave me an opportunity to dip my toe into all kinds of other subject matters that I wouldn't normally have an opportunity to sit in the room with such incredible speakers and panelists and really learn so much. So I felt spoiled and blessed. It was great.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that because it's one of my, I like to call it like it's my Super Bowl of conferences that I go to every year. I have a lot of fun. I get to meet amazing individuals such as yourself and other attendees. And I know we didn't meet in person, but I'm happy that we get to do this interview because today's topic is one that is actually pretty near and dear to my heart. So I'll give some backstory that I don't really get to talk about much on this show. But so my mother, she actually suffered with Crohn's for many, many years. And I mean, I'm talking like 30, 40 years, something like that. Like, I think when she first got it, to my knowledge, they had a really hard time diagnosing it. They didn't even know necessarily what it was 40 years ago in terms of when she, in the beginning, at least in her healthcare system or where she was at. It was a really tricky, and she battled that, you know, her entire life. She passed last year in those tornadoes in Florida, but so she wasn't from Crohn's or from anything medical related, but she suffered with it throughout her lifetime, and she was one of those individuals who spent a lot of time. She was a social worker, so she spent a lot of time filling out paperwork and other things like that, and helping with the research that went into it, because she was really good at paperwork from working in those type of in that field. So she felt she was one of those people, mountains and mountains of paperwork. And just one quick story that I think you'll find kind of funny is she had a new doctor. I don't know, this could have been 10 years ago, but I just remember the story because it was just one of those things. She had a new doctor that she was assigned, and the doctor looks at her and he has his eyes kind of big, and he explains to her that he knows everything about her case because she was in a medical book that he studied in school. So she was familiar about it. He said, I know everything. Amazing. All of us did. We had to study you. So I thought I was just cracking up, but I say that because I really appreciate the work that an organization like yours does, because even just in building awareness, I know what, like later in her life, like as things were diagnosed better, as she was able to get on the right medications, as she was able to, live with it later in her life. She got her life back from those early years where they didn't know exactly what was going on with her in the beginning. So it was just, and it's through organizations that, were helping her. So I know it's a long setup, but I just wanted you to know that I appreciate your work and the work that you're doing over at the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So thank you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate you opening up and sharing all that information. It's so helpful for me to hear patient stories and caregiver stories, right? The people who love those patients. But I have to start by saying that, I'm sorry for your loss. I lost my own mother many years ago, and, it's a very difficult thing. And I'm also sorry that she struggled for so long with Crohn's disease, but that is the reality, unfortunately, of these diseases. They are chronic diseases and they are
Hmm.
lifelong right now because
Yeah.
we do not have cures for them. And she also lived in a period of time, your mom, where we went from we don't have any deep understanding of this disease or any way to treat it to the
Yep.
reality today, which is that we have some good drugs that are now on the market. We have a good approach for managing some of the symptoms. We are not there yet. We still do not have cures for these diseases, and we don't have any great drugs on the market, but we are making enormous progress, and that certainly happened in her lifetime. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you
Let's
sharing.
go. Thank you. And I wanted to maybe take a step back because I don't want to assume that people, obviously you and I know because of my mother, but a little about Crohn's and even what the colitis side of things and just IBD in
Mhm.
general. Maybe let's start there with just a primer. Could you maybe give a little bit of an overview? So for those that haven't quite been affected by this or it hasn't touched their lives.
Yeah, appreciate that opportunity. And as I already mentioned, these are chronic diseases, and right now they're lifelong, so there's no known cure for them. And they're basically characterized as diseases that involve inflammation inside your gastrointestinal tract. And that's true for Crohn's disease, which can happen anywhere from, we like to say, gum to bum. So anywhere,
Hmm.
anywhere along your GI tract, you can have Crohn's disease. And ulcerative colitis, which is very much related to it, but is focused pretty exclusively on the colon, your large intestine. So that's essentially how the diseases are characterized, and the symptoms of those diseases can be many. For lots of people, it involves abdominal pain and diarrhea, but some people have what we call extraintestinal symptoms from the disease. So anywhere from eye issues to joint pain to
Mm.
liver complications. So the diseases can be varied in terms of symptom and can run the gamut from relatively mild disease for some people up to very severe disease. In their lifetime, and I don't know if your mom was one of these people, but folks
Hmm.
with Crohn's disease, roughly 70% of them will require surgery at some point in
Oh
their
yeah, they
journey,
took
and
some of her
often that,
intestine. Yeah, they took
yeah.
some of her intestine out at one point, and she was probably looking at as she went into her 70s, it getting worse at some point and more surgeries.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So your mom is not unusual,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, for our patients.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And
hope that gives
so,
people a rough sense for what the diseases are.
yeah, and let's. I want to get into also the work at the foundation, and maybe a little bit of background there, and what led you to join the foundation.
Yeah, so maybe just a quick summary of me and
Mm-hmm.
who I am. I went to the Wharton School, studied business with the intention of, entering the world of for-profit, um, some 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 element of the for-profit sector. And during
Mm-hmm.
my time there and a bunch of summer internships and some experiences with nonprofits, I realized I wasn't going to go that route. So I've spent my whole
Mm-hmm.
career in nonprofit management,
Mm.
first at cultural organizations and education organizations. And about 20 years ago, I devoted my career to nonprofit health organizations. And I've been
Wow.
at the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation now for about 12 years. I say this all the time. It's by far the best and most rewarding and compelling job I've ever had. I feel fortunate to be in a role where I can help shape the direction of the organization and what happens in the community.
Mm.
And what we aim to do as an organization is to fulfill our mission. And our mission is twofold. We want to cure the diseases, Crohn's and colitis, but we also need to improve the quality of life of children and adults that are affected by the diseases because, as I said, they're lifelong. So as we're searching for a cure, our patients need a ton of support, education, emotional support. We need to advocate for
Mm.
important public policy to improve their lives. As I just mentioned, this is a disease of children and adults. About 25% of people are first diagnosed with Crohn's or colitis when they are children or very young adults. So
Wow, that's a lot. Wow, I
it's
had
a
no
lot.
idea that it started that young. Wow. And that
Yeah,
could be
I mean,
debilitating, like for kids, like to like that, that's wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, and as you're pointing out, it's debilitating not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically, right? And
Mm.
especially for the youngest and most vulnerable among us. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, kids can be diagnosed as young as 6 months old, so it really runs
Oh
the
wow.
gamut. So yeah, um, we have 1-year-olds and 91-year-olds that are being diagnosed with these diseases. So
Mm. Mm.
yeah. But great work is happening at the organization and in the community.
Mhm.
As I mentioned when we were talking about your mom, the world has changed dramatically for the better,
Yeah.
and there are many treatments on the market right now. And the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has played a critical role in every single major breakthrough in the space and advancement to the drugs that we have
Mm.
today. In every case, we were funding some early basic science to uncover the necessary foundational knowledge to advance to the drugs that are in the market today. So we're proud of that. We've been around for 50 plus years and playing a critical role, I think, in advancing everything that's happening in the space.
Mm. That's amazing. And I do want to get into just some of the ways, like how do people get involved? Like when a lot of times when people come on this show, like they may have been affected, like myself, where they had a family member
Hmm.
otherwise, or other people don't even know. Like how do people get involved? Like what does the foundation or organization need?
It's a great question, Adam. Thank you for asking it. And the short answer is there are lots of different ways for people to get engaged. I should start by saying that, we are a patient advocacy organization. We take
Hmm.
our directive from the patient community. So we involve patients and their caregivers in every aspect of the business, whether it's helping us shape and create new education programs or help build our next strategic plan or help review applications for new research programs. We involve patients everywhere. And so those are certainly ways that people can get involved, but there's also all kinds of community activities. We do a big walkathon in every major city across the country every year, and lots of people join the organization, first learn about the organization by joining that walkathon. We call it Take Steps. Most of it happens in the spring. We host golf outings and galas and luncheons all across the country, but we also host education programs all across the country, both live education and online education. And those are good ways for people to first discover and get involved in the organization. All
Mm.
of that information, all of the ways that people can learn from and help advance the mission of our organization can all be found on our website. So I always encourage people to visit that site first so you can get a
Mm.
sense for all the many things that we do. The URL for the website is Crohn's Colitis Foundation.org. And, I hope that people can find the information that they want and the way that they might get involved.
Amazing. And I'm curious in terms of just where we're at with the disease now. Like what you can comment for. Like where are we at with it now? Like you mentioned, there's medicines to be able to treat it, but like any breakthroughs or just
Hmm.
anything that you care to comment on trends you're following in the space, because you have a very unique you have just a very unique vantage point because you're working on this day in and day out, and you're part of such a large
Hmm.
organization.
Yeah, I think I can say this very objectively. We've been around for 50 plus years. The first 40 of those years, the field struggled to treat the disease and advance to better treatments. But what has happened in the last 10 years is dramatic. There is now a very full
Mm.
toolkit of treatments and approaches to help manage the symptoms of the disease. And that's an important thing for the audience to
Mm.
understand. As I said before, there are no cures, but we also don't even have drugs that treat the actual disease. It's treating essentially the symptoms of the disease. But what is going to happen in this next 10 years? Because I'm telling you, the pipeline of new discoveries is so full and so rich, and that's large pharmaceutical companies and smaller biotech and startup companies, not just all over the United States, but all over the world. There's a ton of interest and investment and excitement about things that are coming down the pike. And I think over the next 10 years, you're going to see this space transform for the benefit of patients. And I look forward to having a front row seat to it all.
That's amazing. Do we know roughly how many people we feel are affected or touched by this?
Yeah, in the United States, our estimate is as 1 in 100 Americans is battling some form of inflammatory bowel disease. And that's roughly between 2.5 and 3 million people in this country. And many more million, of course, around the world. Yes.
Of course. Wow.
So likely
Michael,
your audience knows someone with the disease. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I completely agree with that. Michael, this has been great having you on the show today and getting some updates and what's going on in your space, and also, of course, from you attending the Milken Conference. Hope to see you there next year again. Like it's I don't miss it. I go every year. I love it. It's always on my calendar as soon as they announce the next one. So, that being said, Michael, I know you left it once, but I know some people are driving in their cars or in the gym. They didn't quite get it. What's that website again, so people can go check it out?
Absolutely. I just want to say that the name of the organization is Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, but we don't have the "and" in our URL. So our URL is just Crohn's, CROHNS, Colitis Foundation.org.
Perfect.
So come visit. We would love to have you.
Perfect. And for everybody watching, just so you know, we'll definitely put the links to the website in the show notes, so you can just click on it and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Michael, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam. You're doing great work here. I love it. Appreciate being with you.